maybe what I really want is to be one of these Asian girls.
Oh, his face. Welcome back to the Breakroom. What happens during a full moon party stays at a full moon party. It's White Lotus, Season 3, Episode 5, talking about all the things that happen this episode. I'm Evan Yee, of course, and joining me today is John Costa.
We all just took ecstasy.
Uh-oh. Ah, there we go.
That's what you
Little
came
candy
up with?
pills, little candy pills.
It needed to be fast.
Little sweets.
I am the drug.
There we go. That's good.
yeah.
That's good. And of course, Gina Ippolito.
We all met in dance class.
Ah, that's good. Yeah. If you guys were dancers, what would you study? What kind of dancing would you study?
Ooh, I feel like I'm a jazz gal.
Okay, so whatever that is, not that. Not that.
Not ballet, because those dudes are too ripped.
Oh god. Those guys are ripped.
They are so ripped. When they jump in that pool, they're like, we are ballerinas. And then they jump in the pool, and I was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't do? We didn't prepare for this episode. We should maybe for the finale.
Yeah.
Every butt that we've seen so far.
Oh.
Give it a tier list.
Yeah. I would rank
Because
butts.
we had S tier butts.
Could we
On this
do?
episode.
I mean, we could bring back an old Breakroom game. Guess that butt.
Yes.
And do that instead.
Guess that butt.
Oh,
Yeah.
classic.
Some are gonna be obvious. Like I think the Gary's girlfriend has a fabulous butt.
Yeah.
Because she's
But
got
that's
that
often-
high cut, but you can tell because she wears those high cut bathing suits, so you know that that's her
Yeah.
butt. It's like you're not gonna be like, oh, that's Patrick Schwarzenegger's butt, and
Right,
he's wearing a
right.
high cut ladies bathing suit.
We don't know where the season's going.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is
We
true.
could also put the butts in black and white. We could flip
That's-
imagery,
artsy butts.
you know, and then it
Artsy.
would make it really hard to tell.
Yeah.
But hey, we're gonna be talking about butts. We're gonna be talking about big moments from this episode, what the show is willing to reveal as we get to the center of this mystery, what's still hiding, and much, much more. Also coming up this week on the channel, Daredevil boarding in episode 4, and the Severance finale on Friday, and hopefully an Invincible season 3 review and look back. We had a great time watching along with the show on New Rockstars. Check out all the breakdowns that Jessica, Brandon, and Gina worked on, and hoping we can get everyone in one place here to talk about Invincible on the Breakroom. But of course, let's talk about White Lotus episode 5. This episode was great. One of my favorites of the season so far. So many great storylines. All the characters having so much fun. We'll sowing the seeds for some more stuff down the line.
I think this was one of my favorite episodes of all the seasons.
Interesting.
Like, I mean, I would have to go back and rewatch. Like, there were some real bangers in season 2, but I think this is a top 5 episode. I think this is a top 5 episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
John?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun. It's White Lotus. This is the show that I enjoy. I don't know if I would say top 5
all time.
episodes.
I mean, there's only really 10 episodes a season. There's not that many to pick from.
Yeah, but you know, this has been the best episode of the season, maybe outside of the pilot.
We also got some answers. We found out
answers.
that it wasn't a ghost and
Well,
Belinda's
I want to, we'll get back to that in a little bit.
Okay.
I will say it was a bummer to watch this episode a little bit later at night. I got a news alert from Hollywood Reporter being like, behind that surprising kiss. And I was like, what are you talking about?
I saw the
can't hear
Sam
this right
Rockwell
now.
spoiler. I saw a spoiler. And it was like, I watched the episode, like, I started it 15 minutes after it aired, and I like opened Twitter, and it was like, surprising cameo from Sam Rockwell.
Oh,
and I was like,
no.
what are you doing? You obviously wrote this before it aired.
Let's start with one of the biggest. The kiss heard around the internet. You know what I mean?
I also called this from episode 1. I called.
No, Gina.
I called incest.
We've gotten into this fight twice today already. Here's the
I
third
called
time.
it. John
third time.
refuses
He's
to
just
say
on
Gina
here.
was right, but I was right
Gina-
about 3 things: lizard
Gina-
in the room, incest, and muff touch.
It is wrong of you to sit at this table, okay? Right? Sacrilegious, one might say. And pretend as if you were the only person holding that opinion.
I'm not saying I was the only person, but as of episode 1, I guessed all of those things. And also,
the rest of us.
there are no.
Just wanna be very clear.
Brandon,
Alex?
Brandon was very
Brandon
anti-incest.
sucks. Get him outta here.
Brandon was anti-incest. People did not agree that it was a lizard in the room. I said lizard in the room, and no one said, yes, you're brilliant. Lizard in the room.
Can I also, an exclusive for the Gina was right community?
Yeah.
We had heard about Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom
No.
well in advance.
I had not, and
Gina,
you cannot pretend that I had.
well in advance.
You cannot pretend that I had.
Of Gina
I think you were
making
maybe
that
on a
claim.
thread, and I was either not on that thread or not paying attention to the person that said that.
I just want to say
Do not
Gina
rob
was
me.
right
This
with a
is-
source.
This is exactly what men do.
That was the most sinister laugh I've ever made on the show.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch our Comic-Con coverage from last year. If you don't know what we're talking about in regards to The White Lotus, of course, the Ratliff brothers, Saxon and Lachlan. Thank you, Sapphire523, for resubbing on Twitch. They kiss in a game of, I guess you could call it spin the bottle, but it's really more like point and kiss, you know?
Yeah.
It's the two of them hanging out with Chloe and Chelsea, who also share a kiss in this game of point and kiss.
Because the boys are like, you two kiss. Like,
Yeah.
and this whole scene is like, you can't hear their dialogue. You just sort of see them, and they're like pointing to each other, and then they're like, yeah, we'll kiss.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they kiss, and then they're like, they point to each other. And Saxon is so high at this point. He doesn't
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Yeah,
and Lockie
And-
like gives him a little mwah, and then the girls are like, no, sir. No. Doc.
Oh,
Holy
they
shit.
don't dock. They're just.
You don't know.
You don't know where it goes?
You don't know what happens
Muff touch.
afterward.
Docking.
Oh,
The
no.
boat docks, the peens dock.
Well,
Thank you guys, by the way, for watching this episode.
yeah, thank you so much. Hey, this is
we really appreciate it.
yeah, thank you.
We were not
for
going to have
covering.
Gina on the show, but she started talking like this, and we were
Yeah.
like, we got to have her on.
Said, you know, there was a lot of things the Russo brothers said about using AI, about Secret Wars, Doomsday, and he said, you know what, we got to talk about the docs. The docs and
Yeah.
the peens, the muff touch. I mean, this was really interesting, right? Like already the sibling relationship between the Ratliffs was quite a little off, you know, coming in. And
Oh,
Lachlan
yeah.
has been a series of discussion, you know, in the times that we've talked about White Lotus on the show, on air, off air, we're like, where is he going? What is his whole deal? And clearly him and Saxon are starting to bond as brother, like, you know, like macho men brothers. But then they're also like, you know, he's kind of into this.
Yeah.
You know, what do you guys
When
think
you
of the
say
scene?
he, who is he?
I think
That's a
Lachlan
great
is into
point.
it, but Saxon is not. I think here's the thing.
interesting.
Saxon is
don't
like
know.
after the kiss, you see Saxon's face, and he is like so high from whatever those pills were that they
Yeah.
took, and he's like trying to shake it off. As if he knows like something messed up just happened. I think it's one thing to like jerk off in the other room by your brother, or like show your brother your butt.
Okay, wait.
But
hold on.
Okay.
no, that's what he did a couple
It's
episodes
one
ago.
thing to jerk off.
In the next room from your like, look. I'm
Oh,
not saying.
you said to your brother.
No, like,
Or
no,
maybe
I think
I
I said
heard to
in
your
the next
brother.
room to your brother.
Yeah.
I think I said, but
Right,
like, 'cause
I
that's what he does in
misinterpreted
the
what you meant.
episode. Like, Saxon's like, I'm gonna go jerk off, and
Right.
then like he gets up and he's like naked, and that's when we see like Lockie sort of eyeing him. But in this moment, I think Saxon is like too high to comprehend, and Lockie is the one who kind of is like into it. But I do find it interesting that like earlier because we've seen him being pulled between his two siblings, right?
Mm-hmm.
From episode 1, his sister was like, "Hey, like make sure you got my back.
Yeah.
Hey, don't go with Saxon, stay with me." And in this episode, there's a moment where where Lachlan says, "But what if this life is just a test to see if we can become the best version of ourselves?" Which is something his sister would say. And then
Yeah,
Saxon's like, "What? No, what? No." That because he like can't comprehend it. And then Lachlan's like, "Let's talk."
Gina. Okay, so this is an important part of this episode. If you haven't seen the show, right? This ends on them kissing. We don't see them actually having any, you know, sexual relations.
They're not going to.
And I don't think the boys are going to.
No.
I don't think they're actually going to.
I think the only situation in which those two siblings have
Yeah.
any kind of sexual experience with one another is a foursome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Maybe a devil's three. You know what I mean? You know,
I mean,
maybe,
yeah.
Maybe something like that. But I don't think we're gonna get a docking situation. Okay, that's 4 dicks docking into one another, by the way. And I don't think we're gonna have they're not gonna have sex.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna have sex. I do think that at some point Saxon is gonna realize what happened in this episode, and he's gonna be weirded out.
Yeah, I think
He's gonna go to his dad, and his dad's gonna be like, "I got other shit."
Yeah,
to deal
yeah.
with,
He's like,
my-
I'm already
my
close to
man."
blowing my brains out. If we had this on top of it, I can't. There's only so many times I can kill myself. Now.
Yeah, and I think, John, maybe you were kind of getting at this earlier. Like, Saxon does have an interesting kind of like relationship to this night, whether it's like maybe he is kind of into, maybe not his brother, but like maybe he's into men, or he's trying to like preserve his body for like as his temple, like without drugs, but now he's taking it and he's like kind of like enjoying himself.
Isn't it interesting too, the parallel between Saxon and Tim, right?
Yes.
Like Tim also is very much like, I don't do these drugs.
Yeah.
These drugs are not my
Now he's
bag.
popping
And
'em
now
like
he
candy.
like can't stop. And then you sort of have them going two different directions this episode.
Yeah.
One very, very depressive episode. One, a very ecstatic, if you will, kind of experience with those drugs.
Yeah.
I did think it was also interesting for him to say, like, I don't do drugs.
Yeah.
That kind
Yeah.
of person, I imagine, does a lot of cocaine in their life.
Okay,
like that archetype.
Here's the thing. I will say that, like, I do think that that was accurate of those, like, sort of, like, wealthy, white business dudes who work for their dads in the 80s up until, like, the early 2000s. But I do think that now there is a subsection of this genre, this generation that, like, prides themselves on sort of like being straight edge when it comes to certain things, because they associate certain drugs with laziness and they don't want to be seen as that. So like they won't smoke weed, they won't do this.
Okay.
So but I did think that that was the more interesting choice, to have him be like, I don't do drugs, as opposed to like, yeah, like being really gung ho, because then it's like, oh, the little brother who's probably never done any of this is just going full hog.
And I think that that's, I don't think that's an unrealistic portrayal, right? Like, sometimes, speaking for myself, I guess, relatively introverted people, when they do drugs or drink or whatever, like, they go all in, or
Yeah.
they become a version of themselves that they really like, or whatever it is. And so, like, I think Lachlan being really ready to take that, whatever those pills were, was like oh, I'm looking for something more from myself, and so like I'm willing to go there.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a hell of a day tomorrow. He needs to hydrate.
And I also
He
wonder
drank
if
a lot,
he,
too.
because he's on the younger side, he's had more experiences, like, like doing random stuff. Like, who knows what the kids are into these days,
Listen.
with their TikToks.
He's
their
just zinned up all the time.
chats. Yeah, he's zinned up all the time.
Yeah.
JDogXXY sending in some bits here live on Twitch. In the episode, it looks like Lachlan spits out the drug and is sober, making him want to kiss his brother. Did you guys take that?
I didn't see that.
No, I just rewatched
did-
it, and he definitely is drunk.
Yeah, I mean, I think that moment that they're specifically referring to, it seems like that's the moment right after Saxon's like, hey, pace yourself. And it does seem like that he maybe like was drinking too much and not spit out the pill, but is like, oh, I'm spilling this on myself.
No, even like right before they kiss, he's drinking what looks like vodka, just like straight vodka. Like in that scene, he's like drinking.
Yeah.
And he like even pours some into the seashell and drinks it out
Sure,
of the
sure.
seashell.
Yeah,
So
I think-
he is very clearly partying.
Right. No, I think specifically what it was taking the drug.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
moment outside when they're in the street. I think there's a moment where it looks like he spits it out, but I don't think he's spitting it
Yeah,
out.
I
It's
don't
just that the
think so.
drink is like trickling from his
Yeah,
mouth.
yeah.
Anyways, where does this potential, maybe this orgy go? I mean, Chloe, the whole episode is she's saying like, I really like this little magician. She wants to
Yeah.
see what tricks this guy has under his
He
sleeve.
has no tricks. I'm so sorry. You're going to be disappointed.
He had cute magic, I think.
No,
like-
he has those tricks. He doesn't have the
No,
tricks she's looking
but
for.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think she's looking for that. Like, she is already with a dude who probably takes charge and murdered his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And all of this other stuff. So what she wants right now is not a dude that has tricks. She wants a dude that's like, oh God, vagina, oh my God, ooh, and she wants to be like, yeah, I'm in charge now. I could be the murderer.
And when we say little,
Video is getting so demonetized.
Yeah, it's young men. Let's say specifically young men.
What did I say?
He said little boys.
Well, he's 18, and
Yeah.
for the
Actually-
women who are probably in their
all gonna cut.
30s,
Yeah,
gotta
they
cut
feel
that?
I gotta cut it.
we gotta cut.
No, I just gotta cut the little boys part of
Listen,
it.
we refer to the three white chicks as
Gina,
girls.
say young men, so we can cut it in.
Young men, young men, young men.
I'm sure one of those will definitely work.
Yeah, I think
They
that
can
was
match
really
those young men.
yeah.
No, they're out.
They're out.
We
Those
don't
guys
do
are
that.
gone,
We
yeah.
don't do the village people anymore.
Anyways, the next week on White Lotus kind of teases some fallout from whatever the night holds for them. Potentially Greg enlisting Chloe to help him in a plot against Belinda, which we can kind of get into as well. I also wonder, do you think Chelsea and Saxon will actually get together that night? Do you think she's gonna stick to her guns and it's like, this is my man, and she clearly is like, I like want to have fun, but I also don't want to disappoint Rick.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think she's gonna do something that she regrets, but I don't think it'll be a full blown sex. I think it'll be like, oh, we like his, because she obviously is the one that's like, yes, I don't want to cheat. Like, what if he found out? So I think she's probably gonna like do a little light making out.
Yeah, well, as we know,
maybe
eating
a muff
cheating,
touch.
you know what I mean?
Eating and
So,
cheating. Yeah.
it could just be lip to tip.
Yeah. I think she's gonna do something and then is gonna feel bad and then is gonna own up to it.
I really lip the tip. Really, just it took a full like 3 seconds to sink in.
Well, look, if we're talking about this show,
Yeah,
we
we gotta find ways to talk about the
Sex is
talk
definitely
around
a
them.
way that it's something that's happens on the show often.
Listen, white people having sex. That's what this show is
I think
about.
this will be
Gina is using medical terms: penis, vagina, I
Peens.
suppose Those are docking,
Listen, the most
science.
medical of terms,
muff touch. Yeah. So I was trying to go around.
Yeah, no, that was good. It was good. I've never have put those words in that sequence in that order before.
I don't think that that came off the dome. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a
She's
good
like
point.
a little
Yeah.
bit brought along on this journey. And granted, like she already made out with Chloe, so that's her choice. And she did cheat on Rick in that moment. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe they have an understanding. Maybe he's like, I'm cool if
That's
it's girls.
that's very true.
I mean, he might be cool if it's girls, but yeah, she deserves a better boyfriend than this.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
it kind of is one of those situations that I'm sure a lot of us have been in, which is like, oh, these two people are very clearly into each other, and then there's me and you.
Yeah.
And I guess,
Yeah.
and it's like coupling by default, which Chelsea's clearly not into Saxon. We've seen that before. So, I don't know. Maybe it seems like she's warming up to him, but we did get that like monologue from her in the last episode where it seems like she was clearly worried about Rick and like clearly cares a lot about Rick. I know early when we were discussing this season, we thought maybe she was hired by Rick as a sex worker. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. It seems like she really cares about him.
That was the case.
Gina was right.
I do wonder, I wonder if they'll share the origin of how they met, or if Mike White is even like concerned about that at all. He's like, nope, this is just a situation. It's a younger woman with an older man, and she genuinely loves him.
I think we never really get like backstories in previous seasons.
That's
like
true.
it's not his style. I did just see like an interesting tweet from a well-known showrunner saying, around episode 7, everyone wants in every writer's room, the inclination is to do a flashback episode, and I need you to ignore that. And then someone else commented that another showrunner had said, that Stephen King had said, everyone has a backstory and they're not interesting.
Yeah.
So I do think I don't think we'll get like the backstory of how all of these people got together. I just think it's like, oh yeah, they're sort of an unlikely couple, whatever. They probably met on a vacation and she's fun. But yeah, I just like, she's calling him and he's not picking up. She's texting him and he's not picking up. And then finally she's like, screw it, I'm gonna muff touch. And then that's when he's like, I'm gonna call her. I also think Saxon's
He was on an airplane. His phone was on airplane mode.
I also
she should have
think
known.
Saxon's gonna pass out and is not gonna be able to deliver on this.
That's a great, I love that.
I think he's gonna.
Be healthy
He's so like disoriented after the kiss that I would be shocked if he doesn't pass out in the
And you
next
think
5
he's
minutes.
just gonna wake up docked?
Yeah. He's gonna wake up. He's gonna be like, I'm going back to sleep, man. I can't handle this right now. No, I think he's gonna wake up and he's gonna be like, let's never talk about whatever I sort of remember happening.
Or I'll say, what's up, Doc? That got Mikayla.
Hey, Alex, we gotta trim that one out, dude. Just gotta cut that one out.
As long as I'm not the only one getting cut.
Anyway, speaking of cut, let's talk about Belinda and Pornchai.
Yes!
Belinda has, she goes through this interesting moment in this episode where she's like, I'm suspicious of this Gary and Greg guy. I'm still White Lotus staff. I'm going to share my concerns with Fabian.
Fabian, you're the worst.
Fabian might be more bad at his job than Guy Talk.
I think Fabian is a straight up villain.
Yeah.
I love Belinda being like, should we just call all the police?
Also, Fabian not believing a woman? Come on, man. He's like, you'll be fine. I think you'll live. Go away. And I'm like, man, Fabian, I think is coming out of this show the biggest villain of all.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, it's
think.
tough. It's like he, wants to preserve his job. Lots of people in this show want to preserve their jobs. We'll kind of get into that a little bit more. But it is interesting that, they're doing this White Lotus staff exchange program and he doesn't care about Belinda's concerns about a guest. It's like, we are going, no matter what, we're going
he's
to
not even a guest.
And he's not, he's not
He lives there. Yeah.
But a patron or not a patron. A patron of the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if Brandon was here, he'd be having a field day with the scene. So I'll do so in his stead because even Fabian's like, hey, we don't know what happened. We don't know if he murdered her. We don't know. And I really think, listen, we've been talking a lot about, with Gina. Gina, you've been like, is this, how much does Belinda know? How much do they realize that Greg or Gary killed Tanya? We don't know if he killed her. We really don't know.
That's not important when it comes to calling the police.
Yeah, he's wanted for questioning.
Right, like we're not sending him to jail.
Yeah.
We're just calling the cops because A, he might have killed his wife.
Mm-hmm.
B, he's looking for you. If he was like chilling, no worries. I recognize you, but if you don't say anything, I'm cool.
But also,
That's
he
one thing.
fled. He fled. They
But
want
he
him
fled.
for questioning, and he fled. So even if he is innocent or whatever, I think Brandon was like, he probably did like some light tax crimes, and that's why he's on the run. I think he ran, so the cops need to talk to him. So get him to talk to the cops. Even if he's innocent, then there's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide, right? Yeah, but then do you think he loses a share of whatever he was owed because he has to be like, oh, I don't know, like maybe he's living off of like a shared bank account that he might not have like the rights to anymore, like in the will or
I think he got
that.
everything that she had, and she was disgustingly rich. It was that was like set up. And if he didn't do anything, then that money is still his, but they just need to talk to him.
Right. Yeah. I also think that we got a little bit of parallel behavior in the scene with Sam Rockwell, where he says like, oh yeah, I can't really go back to the United States right now.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That felt to me like the show kind of being like, yeah, that's a thing. And that's happening probably to some other characters.
Is a good lesson that if you do crimes, you should go to Thailand. You should.
Taiwan.
Clearly, they're not extraditing people from Thailand or Taiwan.
I mean, and I think that reflects on the themes, of this season of this like of spirituality and like caught in this like in between place, and this in between where anything is possible, where you can go one way or go the other, but you're stuck in this kind of like pseudo purgatory almost of deciding what you want to commit your life to.
We get the heaven and the hell. We see the fire dancers when they're all doing drugs, when the ladies are dancing, and then we get Timothy like praying to God and singing hymns.
Oh my God.
And it's all honestly, both sides are weird. They are both weird. It's not like, oh yeah, like find God, Timothy. It's like when he's sitting there and like his daughter is like, what are we doing? And he's like, oh, Danny boy, the pipes. I can't remember what he's actually singing.
As someone who was raised very religious, I didn't recognize the song that he's singing.
And also because he wants to do the accent still as an actor, right? And he's almost like singing it less than singing it because like I know Jason Isaac has talked about how specific the North Carolina accent is, or I believe North Carolina, not South Carolina. And it was like, I think he wants to keep that authenticity up as opposed to whatever. And also just him like, I used to be an altar boy. Like it's wild, man.
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
And it's interesting because like that was such a debaucherous episode, but then you also have like Piper, who is sitting on the ground in her hotel room, also praying,
being just the whitest girl interested in Buddhism you've ever seen.
I don't know. I thought that was like an interesting juxtaposition, right? And like, I don't know if that's setting Piper up to be judgmental of her brothers for what they got up to or what, but it did feel very like pointed by the show to sort of say like, yep, everyone here is like drinking, doing drugs, having sex, and this character is just sitting in their hotel room.
But see, I see it the opposite way. I see it as like all of these characters are bad people, including Piper, and they are all reaching for something to justify their mundane existence. And this is what wealth does to you. Like, and I'm going to come to this. And it's like, listen, this is the problem with like raising your kids rich is like, she doesn't have to get a job at TGI Fridays in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey. She can take a year off. And like her mom is like, oh, but what about this? Listen, mom, all you need to do is be like, cool, I'm not paying for you anymore. Get a job. Like that's what 99% of the population does. But because she's this like rich white girl and she's like, oh, I'm feeling unfulfilled, which like join the club, Piper. You know how you find fulfillment? Being a hostess at TGI Fridays at 16 years old.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think it's important to stress. It's like I don't think it's like being like white specific. I think it's general privilege and what wealth does to you. I think there is a specific flavor. Yes, I do think there's a specific flavor, but there is a lot of just general when you are very wealthy that there are lots of things you're just not exposed to, right? And things that you aren't able to like kind of like access in certain different ways. So you feel like there's this you're romanticizing this other, right? Which Piper clearly is in a certain sense.
Do you think that this is, maybe I'm giving her too much credit here, right? Clearly Gina thinks so. But do you think that this is just her attempt at like trying to, she recognizes the privileged position that she's in, and this is her trying to like ground herself a little bit, or is that,
it's all surface
too generous?
Level. No. I think it's all surface level. I think that this is like the epitome of I have known people like this, and specifically with Buddhism, I think it's like the epitome of like, oh, okay, I have this, and so, but like the actual like altruistic thing to do would be like, oh, I'm going to use my place of privilege to better society and better the lives of others. But like the reason she's in the wrong is because she's not thinking about that. She's like, what can I do to fill this hole in myself? It's not about giving back to the community. She's not like joining Habitat for Humanity and saying like, hey, I'm going to spend a year building houses for people, or I'm going to spend a year doing this, or at a food bank or whatever. She's like, I am going to come to this country that probably doesn't really want me and do this thing. And I think it's a reaction to her parents' wealth, but it's not the right reaction.
I didn't,
yeah.
You know.
Right.
It might not be the right reaction.
But I think that I agree with John, though. I think it is like her attempt to do that. It's just like a little misguided, right? That's all. She's kind of getting at it. What you articulated is like maybe the wrong reasons or the wrong way to get into the part of herself that she's interrogating, you know? But yeah, all that being said, right? Just to jump back a little bit, there are, Fabian's obviously very wary about getting the cops involved in the situation with Gary and Greg. Do we think that there is the White Lotus as an establishment is hiding anything, or is that just him trying not to rock the boat?
I think he's trying not to rock the boat. I think he's such a wiener that he's just like, I don't want my job to like, if we go accusing a rich patron of something, like, what if my boss doesn't like it?
Sure, yeah.
I think he just doesn't want to rock the boat.
I think the White Lotus,
people are docking on it.
Yeah, I think he just wants to dock with Belinda, honestly. No, I think the White Lotus is very happy to cater to anyone that can pay for a room.
Yep.
It doesn't matter to them who that client is, and they probably don't want to know. Right? So they very might well know that, like, oh, these people are, not the most upstanding citizens here. But from what I read from that scene with Fabian, I think he's sort of like, they're a guest.
He's also obviously very afraid of like his own shadow. Like when he's talking about like he can't get up and perform because it's afraid. He's obviously supposed to be a wiener.
Yeah, I think he's definitely subservient to the machine, you know. So Belinda, you know, she feels unsafe. She decides to, you know, confide in Pornchai. This results in, you know, the two of them discovering the source of the sound in her room.
I have a theory.
A lizard. What's your theory, John?
She is not afraid of lizards. She picked that lizard up on her own, put the lizard in her room, said, "Hey, Pornchai, there's something fucking weird about here, and I need a big, strong, sexy man to come in and take care of it for me."
He delivers.
And then he comes in.
Yeah, he delivers.
There's that.
No,
I don't think that's
my
actually
favorite.
how that happened. But
that's very
This
funny.
is like the most, and I think I said this a couple weeks ago. Shows like this they don't do this kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have two characters that are like cute together and like kind of find love or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
That happened in this episode. Something bad's gonna happen.
No.
And I don't know what it is.
Oh, no.
But it is
No,
gonna happen,
Belinda,
and it makes me sad.
No, she deserves to be happy.
I agree.
And Pornchai
I
is
know,
so sweet.
but
Like from the
there's no happy
get-go.
ending.
Like she shows him her suspicions, and obviously it's written all over her face that she's like worried that he's also gonna pull a Fabian and be like, "Woman,
Oh, I think he's
you
a good
are."
guy, though.
But like he's just like, "Oh, don't worry, like I'll protect you," and then he does immediately because there's a lizard. And then when truly, I think it's being overshadowed in the discourse online because everyone is focused on Sam Rockwell and the white ladies. But like Belinda's whole like, you could sleep on that bed
Right.
or on this bed.
Yeah.
Like that's fine for me. I'm just saying.
I want to keep the
this
sheets
is
clean for
consent.
my son who's coming over
Yeah,
tomorrow.
this is consent. Do you guys have that? We just recently got it. Like that like made me laugh so hard. And then he just gives her like a sweet little nod, and then they kiss, and then I think they bone down in that bed.
Oh, they bone down.
And I love
And
it.
you know,
I love it. She
you
deserves to be
know.
happy.
Yeah.
Two people who like have trained their whole lives to be like masseuse type people has to be incredible. Good for them.
Or
I'm
maybe
really
they're
happy
both
for
very
them.
nervous and it's just very like sweet.
It's just
Yeah.
back rubs for
Sweet,
45
gentle.
minutes.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Oh, you got a little knot. Don't worry, I got it.
I do think that, you know, she's been hearing this sound in her room every night that she's been there. I do think that, you know, there was this idea that you could be like, oh, it's the ghost of Tanya telling her to blah, blah, blah. I think that idea will come into play in a certain part of this like last season where I think it's like, I know it was a lizard the first time, but something is compelling me to continue researching Greg. I mean, we could see, you know, obviously the big mystery of the show is there is the show opens with a shootout. Who is the shooter? Who's causing it? You know, there could be multiple shooters. We're obviously Team Monkey shooters every week. We are Team Monkey shooters.
Now there's two guns out there.
Two
Not
guns?
Just one, now
Yeah.
two guns. Walton Goggins got a gun.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
mean, there's 3 guns, really. The bodyguard's got guns.
That's true.
The Guy
So
Talk,
many
Guy Talk
guns.
/ Tim have the gun, and
Yeah.
Guy Talk's got a gun, right? Okay. But yeah, I think a theory here is that, like, Greg could, you know, have this plot against Belinda. We see in the what's coming up next week where he's like, Chloe, I need you to help me with something. We gotta, like, I think get rid of someone. Something to that effect, and we could see Pornchai protect Belinda. You know,
And when he says we got to get rid of someone, he just means we need to continue to evade our taxes. Is that what
Does
Greg
he
means?
actually
hope.
say that? Or
it's something to that effect.
Okay.
Not those words.
Yeah.
If you're a French Canadian
Uh-huh.
and someone says this to you, I don't know why they have to be French Canadian.
Yeah.
That's bad news. You gotta go. I don't know. Maybe she's also an international assassin. We don't really know much about her other than they met in Dubai, right?
She very clearly says in this episode, like, I think he would probably kill me. Like, I know.
that's right.
You
Yeah,
know,
she
and
was
also
scared.
she's clearly seen some stuff too because she says like, oh, the sweet girls always end up. Like the ones who are romantics at heart always end up with their heart broke or worse. And then she's like, what's worse? And then it cuts to the churning waters
one of those
where
fucking-
Tanya took a nosedive.
They love doing that. I think they must have a quota somewhere where it's like, you know, character has to allude to their own death.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
One of the quirky things about the break room is that we love food, but it can be tough to eat well when you don't have the time to cook unless you use Factor. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating deliciously and eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. For instance, if you're trying to lose weight, you can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals. I had the veggie tomato risotto a few nights ago, and it was really good. Molto bene. Just the perfect level of tomatoey bite with the risotto to sponge it up. It was so good, and it was ready in 2 minutes. That's impulse speed. You have the impulse to eat, you got the speed to eat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Tell them I sent you. Psst, I got a secret. We're all about getting the best sleep possible here at the Breakroom, which is why we're stoked that Miracle Made is one of today's sponsors. The temperature you sleep at has a huge impact on the quality of your sleep. If you're constantly waking up because you're too hot or too cold, you gotta try Miracle Made sheets. Miracle Made's fabric was inspired by NASA, so it's also thermoregulating. That means you'll sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Plus, these sheets are crazy comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. Plus, Miracle Made sheets are infused with silver. That prevents bacterial growth. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne, so sleeping on Miracle Made sheets is good for your skin too. Upgrade your sleep this year. Go to trymiracle.com/breakroom to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code BREAKROOM at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/breakroom and use the code BREAKROOM to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/breakroom to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
Let's talk about, besides the kiss heard around the internet, of course, we have the cameo of maybe the century paired with the monologue.
Great monologue.
Best monologue of the year so
good.
far.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell in this conversation with Walton Goggins. They are old colleagues. Sam Rockwell is here to give Walton Goggins a gun. But, you know, as they catch up, Sam's character Frank is sober, and he reveals a little bit to Walton Goggins. Why don't we watch this clip?
I realized I could fuck a million women, I'd still never be satisfied. Maybe what I really want is to be one of these Asian girls.
Oh, his face.
Sex is a poetic act. It's a metaphor. Metaphor for what? Are we our forms? Am I a middle-aged white guy on the inside, too? Or inside, could I be an Asian girl?
Okay. I think we'll pause it there. It does get pretty insightful, and, you know, he explains getting into Buddhism as well. Yeah. I mean, just some...
He basically says, this is why I need to stop doing drugs.
But just some incredible writing here, some incredible performance here. I mean, like, you saw us react to it live, but, like, when I was, like, jaw to the floor. I was like, what is going on? No idea where the next sentence was going. And I was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. This might have been my favorite scene of the year or so far in anything. Because everything about it was perfect. Like, the lighting was perfect. The acting was perfect. Walton Goggins acting with his very expressive forehead face. You know, like it was just all, and just the fact that, like, you know, someone, I guess there was a great cameo last night or the night before on Righteous Gemstones. I didn't see it, but someone was like, oh, this actor went in thinking that their co-starring role on the Righteous Gemstones was going to get them an Emmy, and then Sam Rockwell came in and said, hold my beer.
Yeah, sure.
Because he does so much with this monologue. And you know what? I would love it if, like, we clearly see him in the next, like, in the coming attractions. But I would love it if, like, he just has, like, one more line and then he's gone. And it's just like, this was his role on this season. He came to visit his wife, and Mike White was like, look, why don't I write a little something for you, man?
Yeah.
Get in that scene. I'll write something for you. And Sam Rockwell was like, oh, you really wrote something for me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think, we knew going into this season it takes place in Thailand, not Taiwan. That was my favorite line of the episode. So funny.
It's the spiritual season. Everyone's going to be discovering things.
I think that we knew going into it they were probably going to get into that part of Thai culture. But man, Mike White, he's so funny. This monologue is like hilarious from start to end, and none of it is a joke.
Yeah,
there's not a single joke that is told in this entire thing, and it is so funny. And they play it so straight, and even the music is like really serious. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. You're right, Gina. Like so many characters on this season are in this like self-discovery place in their lives, right? And I think like talking to a lot of people who are sorting out their sexuality and all that kind of stuff, like that man, I know that he does do a couple moments about like, oh, I don't know why some people are attracted to different sex, some people are attracted to the same sex. Like there's a good chance that character, that man, considers himself to be straight, right?
Sure.
And I think that is also like a really fascinating part of self-discovery, and it made me laugh a lot when I was watching that, because I was like, oh, I've met a bunch of people who are like, yeah, I had a lot of gay sex, but I'm like a straight person. And I'm like, oh, that's very interesting that you consider yourself that. And so, I don't know. All of this to say is that sexuality is very, very fluid. And for this person, it's possible that he is a straight person. And that was a point in his life where he didn't consider himself to be that or something, akin to that. But I thought that was like a very real monologue, even though the details inside of it were very, very funny. But it was like it was a great monologue to see. And I think like having LGBTQ characters, or whatever you'd call this character, in media represented like this is not so common.
Yeah, I think it towed the line of something like it could have gone a specific way in which it might have been like read as maybe more offensive, but I do think it was just kind of like, this is like an example of this character exploring something and displayed as that, and I think that was like very, very interesting and insightful. And again, just like the about gender and sexuality just being super, super fluid in this situation that he's in, I think was so. We'll have to see how this comes back later on in the season, if at all, any of these ideas.
Yeah. And I should say probably straight, maybe not the right word to use. Maybe like cishet is a better way of putting it. But it's very interesting to see a character talk like that.
We may have touched on this earlier in the episode, but, you brought up when they're saying goodbye that Rick is oh, I'm gonna need your help again, Frank. For some role play. Coming off the heels of this monologue, a little interesting to use that phrase. But what do you think? I mean, Rick still seems kind of like hell bent on this plot of like meeting Jim Hollinger, possibly the guy who killed his father, the husband of Sri Tala, the owner of the White Lotus. He's hell bent on meeting this guy in Bangkok, either killing him or at least maybe intimidating him. What do you guys what do you guys think is going to happen here?
Yeah, he must have a plan. Because, you could get a gun and then figure out the plan afterward. But to say to him like, hey, I might need you for some role play, means that he has like identified a situation and he wants Sam Rockwell's character to play a part in it and be a person that he's not, right? Whether that be, I don't know, a security person or what.
Well, we last saw him in the hospital. The guy, like Hollinger
maybe
might
he'll be
in the
a
hospital.
nurse
So
or
maybe he'll be a nurse, or maybe he will be get hired as his personal security or whatever, and then let Walton Goggins in the side entrance.
Well, there was another piece in like we are covering Severance right now, so we are analyzing every single line of dialogue in that show, and so maybe I'm like looking for something that's not there. But he also says, hey, I might need you for some roleplay. And Sam Rockwell replies, I owe you one. So sure, no problem. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what he owes him for. And it's very possible that that's just like a turn of phrase, and it's like, oh, we're good friends, and like I owe you one, no problem. And maybe
no, it seems like they were goons together, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I got. I got that they were sort of like, like light goons together, and that's how they sort of like made their money and knew to come to Thailand and things like that. I think they were goon bros.
Yeah, they were definitely goon bros. I think
they might have docked.
Did they know?
Did they know?
Did they dock? Did they dock is good. I mean, maybe that's next week's thumb. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully we get to see what the plan. I hope they don't drag out Rick's encounter with Jim for the finale. I hope he makes it back to Chelsea at some point. It would be sad if he didn't make it back to the White Lotus.
But there is a little bit of a precedent there, right? Like Chelsea has had a couple of close encounters, and Rick has not been there for those.
Yeah,
right.
So it's possible that the shooting happens and Rick's nowhere to be found.
Oh, that's a great
some kind of
point.
thorn in the relationship or something.
I mean, I do think that they have to, if they want to keep us guessing about what these gunshots are and who gets killed, they need to at some point bring Rick back. Like maybe he's gonna go after Jim in Bangkok, realize, oh no, he and Sri Tala have gone back to the island, because you've got to get right now, the fact that he has a gun puts him, in the minds of the normies as one of the number one suspects.
Well, and the minds of us. In the minds of us.
You know what? I'll say, Gina, no monkeys in this episode. Not a monkey in sight.
They want us to forget about
Not
the
one
monkey. They planted them early. It's Chekhov's gun. You see that gun early, monkey. And then you don't see it for a while, and then you got to bring it back.
Nary a monkey to be ooh ah ah.
There you go.
Of course, a major part of this episode as well. The three women, Kate, Laurie, and Jaclyn, and their new Russian friends. Jaclyn kind of betrays Leslie by inviting Valentine over at night, also cheating on her.
Let's unpack that word betray.
Okay.
Let's unpack that word betray.
Well, she betrays her husband at the very least.
She does betray her husband. I'll give you that.
I also think this is a friend betrayal because she was the one who put it in in Carrie Coon's head that like, hey, you should have sex with Valentine. I don't think Carrie Coon was ever even thinking it, but then Jaclyn was like, hey, you're the only one that's single. You need to do this. She was encouraging her to go out and party. At the end of the night, she's the one that says you should have banged those guys. So I think like, and I think at that point she knew she was going to invite Valentine back. So she's basically saying like, hey, like you should, they're also going to hang out with them the next night. And she was pushing her towards Valentine. So for her, like we see Jaclyn at some point eyeing that three women are clearly sort of like vibing on her, like liking her vibe, are maybe a little bit jealous, and she's into it. And then Jaclyn starts getting sexy with the men because she's like, oh, other women are jealous of me. And this is such a jealous woman move. She saw Carrie Coon dancing. He called her sexy. And then Jaclyn was like, I need this. I want this for myself. I want this toy for myself.
I mean, I feel like in that moment, so also, Gina, it was helpful this morning. We clarified that the women that Jaclyn notices looking at her are not the same women that they later get into a fight with the Russian friends about. The woman that's fighting is on the left, that's fighting with Alexei and Vlad, and the women on the right are the ones that are eyeing Jaclyn.
Yeah.
Clarification.
The women on the right, when they're watching her, they're sort of like grooving. Like they're like, oh, look at those American women. We can't hear the audio, but to me, what it reads as an expert at hot lady body language. Yeah, they like sort of are like, oh, look at that. Like they're dancing. Because the one in the middle with the ponytail is like, like she's like grooving. I think there's a little bit jealousy. I think there's a little bit like, oh, look at those women. They have something that I kind of want. And because that's when Jaclyn gets like turned on.
Well, I think specifically my read on it was that the women that are looking at her are like, look at those old women making fools of themselves with these young men.
Whoa.
I will say that might have been the intention, but I think Jaclyn took it as because she starts smiling.
100%.
So in Jaclyn's mind, she's like, yeah, look at those jealous ladies. I'm going to dance even sexier now.
Yeah.
Third pitch, they're pickpockets.
No.
And they are targeting.
I've got to pick a pocket or two.
I don't know what that will come to. But
yeah.
Got to pick a pocket.
I want to clarify. I do think that Jaclyn 100% breaks like friend code.
Yeah.
It's shady
it's a
at least.
Thing to
it's
do.
Shady at least.
Yeah, it's shady at least. I don't know if that is a friendship destroying decision.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen that
there's bad blood, but
they're not. These friendships are not healthy. So we've seen that. But yeah.
I mean, this might be the meme of like when you go on a vacation with your friends and then the last day everyone hates each other, right? Like,
Yeah.
that could end up happening with these three women.
Yeah.
I also like what you said. I wonder when Jaclyn makes this decision, right?
Yeah.
At what point does she make it? You suggest that, you know, she makes it at the bar or the club when Carrie Coon's character is called Sexy. It's possible it happens, you know, at the hotel later when she whispers something in his ear. I think it's even possible that it happens way earlier and she's trying to get it in, but like doesn't want her friends to suspect that she's cheating on her husband, and creates this kind of situation where it's not going to look so suspicious if she has, you know.
Because she still cares that these women are part of her real life, right? Everything in Thailand is still a fantasy to her. It's so far removed to the rest of the world. But these women know her, and they are involved with her in some sort of way. So it is like, oh yeah, these people can recognize that I'm doing something actually bad.
Because well before they go out, she says, you know, what happens here stays here.
Right. She's obviously, because she's been trying to reach her young husband and he's not calling her back. So and she's obviously feeling self-conscious. I think that when they go out to this, what was it, a rugby match or something? Or an MMA fight.
Yeah.
They're going with the Russian boys on an MMA fight the next night. I think Carrie Coon is still going to be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to bone Valentine."
Oh, 100%.
And so I think that there is going to be a weird thing, and maybe they will bone, and then both of these friends have. But listen, we've all boned the same person that one of our friends has boned at some point. Maybe just not one night after the other. But I think, like, you know, Valentine, if he can, he's going to get it in with both.
Okay. All right, let's wrap up here with Guy Talk and Tim Ratliff. Man, these men need some help.
Honestly, this is the most in an action-packed episode. This was the most boring part of it. Like Guy Talk's crisis. To me, I was like when I watched it a second time, I fast-forwarded through those. When he's looking for the gun, and he's like talking, I was like, get me to like either the incest bros or like the partying white ladies.
Incest bros, are they putting that out on the Switch too? I mean, yeah, it wasn't as fun. But you know, thank you. Yeah. That was a joke for you. Thank you.
I just want Guy Talk to fix his problems. I'm tired of all of his.
He's not good at his job, and the problem is, I really like him, and because he's doing his best.
I know, but he's got to fix his own problem.
When hotel manager guy
Fabian
comes up to him and is like, okay, so you
nervous.
left the gate?
Oh, yeah.
Like he didn't get cover to cover the gate for this performance that he wanted to go see. I was like, okay, that is you being bad at your job.
Yeah. But it's like every step of the way it's bad. Like, and they keep snowballing. And again, I feel like we all know those people that like nothing ever goes their way. But when you dig into it, it's like, oh, this is because of you. Yeah. Like like he was the one who sort of, you know, like he was the one who lost the gun. He's the one who like, you know, leaves his post and things like that. So he's always doing stuff. And whether it's because he's so taken with Mook that he's like, you know, like leaving his post to go on a walk with her or whatever, it's snowballing now.
Yeah.
Like you gotta pause that ball rolling down the hill and start taking chunks away. Like start fixing your own problems, man. We can't feel bad for you all the time.
But everyone else at the resort's having sex, so he just wants to participate.
Yeah.
You can't blame him.
Guy Talk's gotta get it in.
I do blame him. Fix your life first, then you can get it in.
You can blame him.
Put your own oxygen mask on first by finding that gun.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I cannot believe Tim was like ready to do it. He was ready to end it. He's wearing a Duke shirt.
Okay.
That was
wild.
He wrote a note.
Which I will say, if you're going to blow your brains out, put the note somewhere else because no one's going to be able to read that shit.
Also, his family is going to have to find him.
They're going to hear it.
Yeah, but
like, go to the lobby and do it so at least a stranger finds you.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah. So it was, that's... Man.
Also, his life insurance policy is not going to pay out for a suicide. He's leaving his family with nothing.
Yeah.
Lots of problems.
Maybe he'll figure that out and he'll drown himself. Yeah, I mean, there is one thing that's interesting. The coming attraction that we got at the beginning of the season. There's a great silhouetted shot of someone with a gun to their temple, and they were sort of, you couldn't tell who they were. It was from behind them. It was silhouette. It seemed to me like that was probably Tim, but they didn't have that shot in this episode.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's one of those instances where like,
They
hey,
just used a
it
different
just
shot,
didn't make it in the cut, and
Yeah.
we are, but we like the shot. We're gonna
Great
use it
trailer.
in the thing.
Yeah. Or if there's another
or if
character.
it's gonna come back.
I think it's probably the former. I think that they just like didn't use it, but they wanted to be like, anyone can die from anything. You hear gunshots. Maybe they're self-inflicted.
Yeah, I think he'll come back in some form. I mean, honestly, I think he'll be like wrestling with that decision night after night. I don't know
He's not
how
gonna
many
get
nights.
better.
Yeah, he's certainly not going to get better. Though I do think that he is not one of the people that we lose at the end of the season.
Yeah.
As we kind of start looking ahead and doing some predictions after this episode, I really think, I don't know why, we joked that maybe I think last week we joked that maybe Jason Isaacs' character Tim would like stay at the monastery. I think maybe that was something Brandon had said. I think Tim, Piper, and Rick all become monastery
Oh my gosh,
buddies.
that would
They
be
all decide to go to the monastery. They're like, you know what? We'll leave it all behind.
Uh-huh.
We'll leave it all behind.
Well, unfortunately for Tim, there's nothing to leave behind.
That's true.
Woof.
And that's actually interesting, right? Like Piper's imagined life no longer is possible,
Right. 'Cause
right?
she doesn't have that
like
money anymore.
she can't take a gap year
Yeah.
and
Right,
stay there
right.
for a year.
Yeah.
And that I think is what's going to like ultimately reverse her thing, where she's like, I don't
Yeah.
have this luxury anymore. Oh shoot,
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that they reverse positions, right? Like he's sort of praying to God, and so he might at some point be like, oh, okay, I need to like discard
Yes.
material
Yes,
things,
yes,
and Piper is like, all right, I guess I gotta get a white collar job.
Yeah.
Like I'm the head of this family now. Everyone else is an idiot.
Saxon can't handle.
Yeah. He's still passed out from whatever drug he took.
I mean, it's very similar to, I think I've made the reference before that to Alexandra Daddario's character from
Yes.
season 1, where
Yes.
she's wrestling with these feelings, and then at the end, she's like, I'm going to be happy in this marriage. I have to be.
Right.
Piper has this great moment, Sarah Catherine Hook, the actress, where she's like, I'm not Saxon. I'm not buying into the bullshit,
Right.
which is like everything their whole family is about.
Yeah.
And now she might be faced with the decision, I have to buy in.
Yeah.
I have to do what my family was doing in order to retain any sense of
Yeah, I think that if there's one
identities.
thing that this show is good at doing, it is showing us that the very wealthy are masters at self-deception and resist growth at all costs. Because every season we get a youth that is like, I'm gonna do this thing, like whether it be like falling asleep on a raft in the middle of the ocean and going rowing with these guys. But then by the end of their vacation, the status quo has returned to normal. And Alexandra Daddario is like the great example of that. Like she starts out by being like, oh, I'm gonna buck the chains of the patriarchy and have my own writing career. I don't need my super wealthy husband to support me. I don't want to be in a loveless, rich marriage. And then by the end, she's like, I'm gonna commit wholeheartedly to this loveless, rich marriage. Like, so I do think that by the end, Piper will sort of be like, nah.
Nah. Yeah. The season ends with her in a like frickin' pencil suit or whatever, and she's like, all right, business time. Business.
Or she goes to the monastery, and then the last shot is her face being like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah. All right. So after this episode, are we still team monkey shooters? Do we think? Personally, I think at least one monkey fires at least one gun.
I also think that, especially because we did not see the monkeys, I think they're giving us a monkey rest.
Oh, yeah. A classic monkey rest.
Classic monkey rest.
a scene
I think
mark.
at least
We
one.
took screenwriting 101.
Yeah.
Also, I will say, I
the
noticed
monkey?
this when Pornchai finds the lizard in Belinda's room. He specifically says to her, you must have left the door open at some point. And then when Valentine goes and sleeps with Jaclyn, they leave the door open. They do not close it. They go back to her room, and the door to like the whole
Villa.
cabana
Yeah,
is open.
Oh.
And that cannot be a
Valentine
coincidence that he says, "Hey, this thing you didn't want in here got in here because you left the door open."
Yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, she leaves the door open.
So you think that we're gonna see Laurie in a lizard costume
Yeah.
slither into?
Yeah. And she's gonna be like, threesome?
I thought. Would you like to dock?
Would you like to die?
Look, as one of the founding members of the Monkey Shooters Club, along with Gina, I have to say, my membership might need to be revoked.
Oh no!
Here,
Team Lizard Shooter.
That would be incredible.
Drop a comment in the chat. TMS or TLS? Okay.
TLS.
If you got TMJ, let me know.
If Rick pulls off this murder, I think it's possible that some people kind of come after him. And then we have a situation where he's firing at them.
Oh, wow.
Or something like that, right?
Okay.
I think that's like, I still like the monkeys being involved in this somehow. Yeah. But I think that's a possibility. What I will say, and I've said this before, the show doesn't do clues. So
analyzing
it. Me saying that based on some evidence, whatever.
I do think those two Russians are still the robbers.
Yeah, I think that's very...
I think that's almost confirmed.
And it's very possible that they might try again. Maybe they'll rob those rich white ladies. Maybe that's why Valentine left the door open, because it is Valentine who left that door open. Maybe his buddies come back, rob him blind while she's porking him. And then Leslie Bibb wakes up and is like, you were getting your hook on while we were being robbed.
Is that as good a time as any to end this episode?
I think so. That's it for us today. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch where we do videos like this live. Follow Breakroom NR on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and more. We'll catch you later. See ya.